deep in the heart of Central America, where the jungle devours the ancient stone temples and the whispers of a long-lost empire still echo through the trees, there was a civilization so advanced it could predict the stars, measure the passage of time with unimaginable precision, and construct cities that stood as towering marvels of engineering. But in a twist as mysterious as their existence, the Mayan civilization rose to greatness, only to vanish almost overnight, leaving behind ruins and secrets that still baffle archaeologists and historians. This is the story of the Mayans, an empire whose brilliant ascent to power has captivated the world, yet whose equally dramatic decline continues to ignite debates about their true fate. It is a tale of ambition, mysticism, mystery, and perhaps an ancient warning that echoes through the ages. Strap in, because you're about to uncover one of history's most fascinating stories, a rise and fall as grand as any myth. Around 2000 BCE, in what is now known as the Yucatan Peninsula and parts of Guatemala, Honduras, and Belize, the Mayans began to carve their name into history. They were not a single unified empire, but rather a collection of city-states, each a powerful force in its own right. They built their civilization in the dense rainforests, at times beneath thick layers of vegetation and twisted vines, and other times in the open, allowing them to dominate the land. By 250 CE, the Mayan cities were growing into political, religious, and cultural hubs that would shape the future of Mesoamerica. Imagine this: vast urban centers with towering pyramids, intricately designed plazas, and palaces that seem to have come straight out of a dream. These people were ahead of their time. More than just traders and warriors, they were astronomers, mathematicians, and architects with knowledge that the world was only beginning to understand centuries later. The heart of Mayan power was their ability to predict the celestial bodies with eerie accuracy. With their obsession for tracking the stars, the Mayans developed a calendar system so complex that it far outpaced anything the Western world would produce for another millennium. The Mayan long count calendar, for example, was able to keep track of time for over 5,000 years. An astounding achievement when you consider that the Gregorian calendar we use today only spans a fraction of that. But it wasn't just the precision that made their calendars impressive. It was their belief that time itself was cyclical, a never-ending spiral that linked past, present, and future. The Mayans believed that events on Earth were intrinsically tied to the cosmos. A comet passing by, a lunar eclipse. These were seen as portents, omens of major changes or divine intervention. As the Mayans reached the pinnacle of their civilization during the Classic period, 250 CE to 900 CE, their cities became powerful centers of culture and politics. Palenque, Tikal, Calakmul, and Copán, names that still carry an air of mystique today, rose to prominence. But they were not mere walled cities. These were intricate metropolises, filled with pyramids that scraped the sky, temples dedicated to gods that demanded sacrifice, and grand courts where the most important of Mayan kings would rule. These kings were not just leaders. They were divine figures, believed to be direct descendants of the gods. Their rule was so entrenched in religious rituals that every decision, from going to war to conducting trade, was seen as divinely inspired. Yet it wasn't just their astronomical prowess or architectural wonders that made them remarkable. The Mayans also mastered agriculture, cultivating crops like maize, beans, and squash, which fed their population and supported the growing demands of their cities. Their economy flourished through trade networks that spanned the vast reaches of Mesoamerica. Cities like Tikal had access to jade, obsidian, and other luxury goods, which were used for trade or religious rituals. The Mayans also excelled in writing, carving intricate glyphs on stone monuments, pottery, and codices made from bark paper. They chronicled their history, their gods, and their kings in an ever-expanding body of texts that today remain one of the greatest challenges for modern linguists to fully decode. But as quickly as it began, the golden age of the Mayan civilization started to fade. By 900 CE, the monumental cities of the southern lowlands, such as Tikal, Calakmul, and Copán, began to experience a slow but steady decline. What caused this collapse remains one of the most debated questions in history. Was it the result of warfare between rival city-states? The Mayans were not a unified empire. and their cities were often in fierce competition for resources, power, and prestige. But the idea that warfare alone could cause such a widespread collapse seems too simple. Something else was at play. A powerful theory suggests that environmental factors, such as prolonged droughts, were a major contributor. The Mayans relied heavily on rain-fed agriculture, and when the rains failed to come, their crops would wither. Without enough food, their cities would suffer. The people, once proud and prosperous, would face starvation. Worse still, the social structure that had held them together, one built on religious and political leadership, began to unravel. Without the stability of food, the immense pyramid of power crumbled. Social unrest followed. Perhaps the once great kings of the Mayans could no longer control the very people who had worshipped them as gods. As their mighty cities abandoned their grand temples, the dense jungle began to reclaim the land. The ruins, once teeming with life, now stood in eerie silence. It's as if the land itself had swallowed up its creators. Did the Mayans, faced with an uncertain future, abandon their cities to seek new life in the mountains? Or were they driven out by the collapse of their entire way of life? We'll never truly know. What is certain is that the once thriving civilization had essentially disappeared by the time the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, although pockets of Mayan life persisted in isolated regions, especially in the highlands. However, the decline of the Mayan civilization isn't just a story of collapse, it's a narrative of transformation. After the fall of the southern cities, the northern Yucatan Peninsula flourished. The ancient city of Chichen Itza rose to prominence. This city, much like the ones that came before it, had grand pyramids, ball courts, and observatories. It stood as a testament to the resilience of Mayan culture, a place where rituals were still performed and the stars were still worshipped. But even Chichen Itza, after a few centuries of dominance, eventually fell into decline. By the time the Spanish conquistadors arrived, the once proud cities were in ruins, and the civilization they had built was all but forgotten by the outside world. Yet, the Mayans never truly disappeared. The ancient wisdom, knowledge, and culture continue to survive today, carried on by millions of descendants scattered across Central America. The Mayans left behind an extraordinary legacy, an intricate system of mathematics, a complex calendar, a deep connection to the stars, and a profound understanding of the natural world. Their accomplishments, long dismissed as the work of primitives, are now regarded as some of the most sophisticated and advanced achievements of any ancient civilization. The collapse of the Mayan civilization isn't just a cautionary tale about what can happen when an empire falls. It's also a profound reminder of the fragility of human civilization. Empires rise, and empires fall, but the legacy they leave behind has the power to inspire generations long after their time has passed. So, the real question remains, did the Mayans fall? Or did they simply evolve into something else? Something we're yet to fully understand? Did they leave us a message in their ruins? A warning hidden in their hieroglyphs, waiting to be decoded? As we uncover the lost stories of the past, perhaps we'll find that the rise and fall of the Mayan civilization isn't just history. It's a living, breathing reminder of what we have yet to learn. The Mayan civilization may have crumbled beneath the weight of its own mysteries, but in the shadows of their fallen cities, something greater than stone and gold remains, an enduring legacy that continues to captivate, mystify, and challenge us to this very day. Some archaeologists argue that the Mayans did not entirely vanish, but rather transformed into something new, their influence subtly seeping into the cultures that followed. The Spanish, when they arrived in the 16th century, were met with a civilization that appeared broken, but they overlooked the lingering presence of the Mayan people in the deep jungles and mountains of Central America. These were the descendants of the great cities, who had retreated into more remote areas to survive. They maintained their language, rituals, and ways of life, hidden from the colonial powers who saw only ruins and the evidence of a past that seemed to fade into the earth itself. In fact, Mayan descendants still inhabit vast regions across Guatemala, southern Mexico, Belize, and Honduras. These modern Mayans carry with them not just the bloodline of their ancestors, but also their enduring connection to the land and sky. In in villages nestled in the highlands or deep in the rainforest, ancient traditions continue to be passed down, from weaving and pottery to their belief systems rooted in a profound understanding of the cosmos. Mayan elders often recount stories of their ancestors' divine knowledge of the stars, tales passed down through generations, stories of gods who watched over the earth and the people's intimate relationship with the heavens. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Mayan legacy is their complex language, which has only recently begun to be more fully understood. The decipherment of Mayan hieroglyphs has revealed an extraordinary depth of knowledge about their history, politics, religion, and even their everyday lives. These glyphs, which once seemed like mere symbols to Western scholars, are now recognized as intricate texts that chronicle the rise and fall of dynasties, celestial events, and sacred rituals. With new technologies and a renewed interest in Mayan studies, we are beginning to uncover the secrets of their past in ways that were previously unimaginable. The modern world has also started to rediscover the genius of the Mayan calendar. Although many see it as an ancient curiosity, it's increasingly viewed as a tool of extraordinary sophistication. The Mayans, with their ability to track time to such a precise degree, understood not only the movements of planets and stars, but also the cycles of nature, in a way that resonates even today. In a world of fast-paced digital timekeeping and constant change, we could learn much from their deep respect for time as a cyclical and interconnected force. The Mayan understanding of the universe is a reminder that our modern world, often obsessed with linear progress and technology, might overlook the deeper patterns that have governed civilizations for thousands of years. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Mayan civilization's decline is the way in which their great cities were abandoned and left to decay. What happened to those who once lived in the shadow of the towering pyramids? Were they victims of war, disease, or famine? Or did they simply choose to leave when their world crumbled around them? The jungle has swallowed much of the evidence, but the ruins still stand as silent witnesses to a once great civilization. Some suggest that the Mayans may have had a premonition of their own decline and retreated into more isolated areas, avoiding the fate that befell their cities. It's a theory that feeds into the notion that the fall of the Mayans wasn't a simple collapse, but a transformation into something less visible, but no less significant. In modern times, the Mayans' deep spiritual connection to the world around them, manifested through their rituals, their calendars, and their reverence for nature, has become a source of fascination and inspiration for many. Their ability to live in harmony with the land, to understand its cycles and rhythms, is something the modern world often struggles to comprehend. In an era dominated by environmental crises, the ancient wisdom of the Mayans may offer valuable lessons about sustainability, balance, and the interconnectedness of all things. But just as the Mayans believed in the cyclical nature of time, their story is far from over. It's not just a tale of rise and fall, it's a story of adaptation, survival, and perhaps even rebirth. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of their past, we might find that the Mayan civilization was not lost. It was simply waiting for us to rediscover its legacy. Their rise, their fall, and their enduring impact remind us that history is never truly over. Like the stars they once studied, the echoes of the Mayans continue to shine, guiding us toward new insights about ourselves and the world we inhabit. In the end, the Mayans may not have disappeared. They may have simply transformed, leaving behind not only ruins, but a living legacy that continues to inspire and challenge us in our search for meaning and understanding in the world.